Welcome back to another special episode of Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. This is your host, Russell Bruce. And today we have another special guest, and this is my homeboy, so this is extra special. We're repping Newcastle.
Yes, sir. Red Hurricanes, baby.
Red Hurricanes, which both of us actually put in some work on the hardwood back at the crib. And this is Mr. Michael Cox. And we're going to be following the yellow brick road and digging into one of those proverbial rabbit holes today, dealing with nationality, taxes, credit, things of that nature. So just put your thinking caps on, chew the meat, spit out the bones. There's something you could use it. If not, just toss it. But I think you guys are going to be intrigued. We have something special here. And we may not get it all in on one episode. This may be a series. But let's get ready to dig in here, bro. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Hello. Honored to be here. Appreciate you. You got a great podcast going. I'm just happy to be, come on and talk to the people. But my name is Michael Cox. Everybody calls me Yogi Freeman. Basically, this is definitely a journey down the yellow brick road. I've been studying this stuff for probably about 6 years now. It's very interesting. Could make you angry. After you start building the knowledge, though, you start seeing the light, and then you just keep acquiring things and keep pushing forward. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about the 14th Amendment, which to me, by my studies, that's really what got us locked into everything that's going on, even up to this day. So that's where we're going to get started at. So I'm gonna just jump in.
Before you jump in, what actually inspired you or triggered you to start delving into this information?
Well, I think it was always in my spirit. Like, I was one of those people that even as a child, it's like you know something's wrong. You just don't know what it is, but it just ain't right. At school, church, I'm asking all the questions. Nobody's giving me the right answers, but it was years and I just couldn't figure it out. And I don't know, I just started, actually, my mom put me on to this guy she was watching on YouTube. And I was like, you know what? I said, that's it right there. I said, that's what I've been looking for. And ever since then, I dove in head first.
I wonder if it was that Maxwell guy.
It was actually Yusufale, and then there was another. He was a more. He's still on there. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name right offhand. And I just dove in, and I've been through a lot of people. This covers a lot of genres. When you're talking about Constitution, you're talking about common law, banking, trust law, contract law, like it's all over the place. You're in the Bible, like it's definitely
slavery.
right. Everything. Nationality, citizenship, like it's we didn't ever know all this, but it's all tied together, and this is how they pulling it off.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, let's jump in, man.
All right. So like I said, we're gonna talk a little bit about the 14th Amendment. I'm a try to share screen right here.
It's all good.
Not too savvy with the, but we gonna get it done though.
There you
go. All right, here we go. All right, so we're gonna start right here. And I'm not gonna be long on anything. We're just gonna get brief synopsis and keep it moving. But basically, this is talking about the 14th Amendment, where it says all persons born or nationalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. But here's where the problem comes in at. By the 14th Amendment, really what happened was at the end of slavery, like the Civil War and toward the end of slavery, I'm sorry, I'm gonna try to come back to y'all. The share screen kind of gives me sometime, but anyway, I'm gonna just keep going. At the end of the Civil War, there was big fighting and arguing going on between the South and up north, and the South, they didn't want to let the slaves go, so they basically made a compromise. They created this 14th Amendment, and what the 14th Amendment did, it actually created a new class of people that were now called citizens. See, prior to that, we were just people in the land. We were citizens of the state that we were born in. We were called nationals, and now they use the term non-citizen national. That's where all our rights were, and basically what they did was create this 14th Amendment, made up this citizen thing, and that's how we all got trapped. So I'm gonna go to let me see if I can get these screens going. There was something that went on called the okay, I got it right here, the Slaughterhouse Cases. Basically, in American history, it was a legal dispute that resulted in a landmark U.S. Supreme Court decision in 1873, limiting the protections of the privileges and immunities clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States. And it created what you see right there, created a federal citizen. But what people don't understand is that a federal citizen is actually property of the state. Like I can show you where, here, let's go here. Let me see here. All right, actually, okay, here go the Slaughterhouse Cases. You guys, I'm not going to stay long on any one thing, so hopefully somebody's taking notes. Look all this stuff up after we get done.
Yeah, screenshot it if you need to, or just
right
and watch the replay and freeze the screen and get the information.
Yes, sir. So I'm gonna get me another screen here. Now we're gonna go to all right, they have what they call the Organic Act.
So while you're pulling that up, and you were mentioning the creation of the state citizen, now did this apply to both the organic people to the land as well as the immigrants who were coming in from abroad?
Now that's where they really got us good, because they literally did this directed toward the so-called blacks, the slaves. But what happened was when they passed that law, they made it blanket across the board. So they just said, we're just going to make everybody second class, so that's literally what actually happened. So I'm trying to find this, let me see, 1871. Yep, here we go, right here. Okay, the District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871 was an act of Congress that repealed the individual charters of the cities of Washington and Georgetown. Now, as everybody knows, if they pass something in the Supreme Court, that basically makes it the law of the land. So once this made case law, you can clearly see what it says, that it established a new territorial government for the entire District of Columbia, and it created a single new district corporation governing the entire federal territory, dissolving the major political subdivision of the district. So basically what that meant was that prior to that, every state is actually its own individual country. So what they did by this, they turned it into, we'll put it like this, the United States is a corporation. So what they did was they made every state a subdivision of the corporation. So you literally, you can't live it, like I'm in Pennsylvania. I don't live in the state of Pennsylvania because that's a subdivision of the corporation. If you claim to be a citizen of the US or any subdivision of it, it's only in Washington, D.C. And I know that's weird, but that's really what's happening. It's a registered business. It's only in D.C. Anything that says the state of, this is what they did. When this happened, now you got your driver's licenses. Now you got the FBI, the CIA, all the alphabet places. You got public school got started. You got birth certificates and social security numbers. You name it. It all came from this. And this is how they basically captured everybody and put us under their thumb.
So, quick question while we're right there. What year
Yep.
was this U.S. corporation formed?
I actually had looked that up, but it was all right around this time. I think like 1870, 71, 70, like all in that area. But just how we started at the beginning talking about the Yellow Brick Road, Wizard of Oz kind of thing. That movie is actually satire. A lot of people think, oh, it's a kid's story. The Yellow Brick Road, they're literally talking about House Joint Resolution 192. And that's when they came out into the land. And this all happened around, I think that was like, what, 1933, somewhere around there. But what happened was they came into the land, they took all the gold and silver, and that's when they gave us Federal Reserve notes, this paper money that we have. What people don't understand is that that's not actual money. They're just basically IOUs, like we're playing a Monopoly game, or something like that. So as Dorothy's going on this journey, and they're looking for a heart, a brain, all that good stuff. The monkeys, that's actually representing the police. Then you see how she gets down to where she thinks the government is. They pull the curtain back, got this little guy sitting in there, and literally that's really what's going on. There's a handful of people that is controlling literally not even the United States, but actually the whole world. And it's crazy because we have the power to get free. You know what I mean? But it's all in the knowledge.
So you said something there when you mentioned promissory note. So if people were to pull out, say like a dollar bill, $5 bill, on there it says promissory note. But if you
Right.
look back when the money was backed by gold and or silver, so to speak,
Yes.
like say for example, the $2 bill, you could probably Google this. The $2 bill says silver certificate, where you could actually
Right.
take it into a bank and exchange it for silver. And
Mhm.
the old greenbacks back in the day, you were able to take it to the bank and exchange them
Right.
for gold, right? So
Right. That's correct.
all right, so you're saying we went to this promissory note thing where they just start
Mhm.
making money out of thin air and interest and
Right.
good stuff.
Yes. Well, actually, what it was it was a hostile takeover. It was the bankers. The bankers literally took over the government, and a lot of people don't understand how all that went down. But there's a book. It's called The Creature of Jekyll Island, and it basically explains how the names, the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, all the Bilderberg people, they met on this
J.P.
island where
Morgan.
they right, all of them. They met at this island, and they literally sat down and devised a plan to do what I'm saying they did. They literally came in and took over the government. The book explains, everything that went down. And that's basically where we're at today. It's not our government that runs our country. Actually, the bankers run our country, and we see what they're doing to it.
Can you repeat that again?
I said the bankers actually run our country, and you see what's happening now because they done ran it into the ground. So, now we got to deal with it.
So the thing is, if you have a corporation, you you elect a what? A president, right?
Right.
So is the president sitting in the corporation, sitting in as the president of the corporation owned by the bankers?
He is the president of the corporation.
All right.
Now, as a let me say, how can I say this? Somebody like me, I'm out in the land. As a matter of fact, let's just look at this. I'll show you. See if I can navigate this screen. Okay. Here we go. Now, this is the government styles manual. And this is what they use. It's basically directive. Like, remember in college when they gave you the brown book to tell you how to correct punctuation and how to write a paragraph, and this is basically what this is for the government. So you can see up here where it says nationalities. Now, a person in the land, like I'm from Pennsylvania, so you see I would be a Pennsylvanian. this is when we were nationals. We didn't live in a democracy. We lived in a republic. So you see all the names. If you lived in any of these states, that's what you called yourself. If I was in Texas, I was a Texan. North Carolinian, North Dakotan. That we were free people in the land. Now, this right here, this is messed up because you see at the bottom where it says observe the following forms. Then you see African American, Alaska Native, and like I said, they end up getting hold of everybody. Let me see, part Hawaiian, Puerto Rican, everybody's in this subcategory. So they took you out of the top and they put everybody down here in the bottom. So
Okay.
that's literally how go ahead.
Yeah. Let me chime in. So, because I'm sure people probably have questions, right? So you mentioned that we went from a republic to a democracy. What's the difference between the republic and the democracy?
In the democracy, you're a second-class citizen. We think we have rights, but we don't. You're only given benefits and privileges that are basically they took our rights and then they sold it back to us in the form of driver's licenses, fines and fees, like everything that we were already free to do. They stopped us from doing it, and then now we're paying them to do something that we was already allowed to do anyway. That's crazy.
Right. So, and part of my understanding, like in studying history, and I'm starting to see like how a lot of this unfolded is like in like the Republic, people were pretty much more so sovereign kings and queens and
Yes.
were under like a natural law, more like common law, right?
Yes.
Like marriages and things like that, they would just, step out to the public, say, hey, we married,
Right. And that's what people don't understand. Like, if you have a marriage license, that's what they call de facto, because you didn't marry each other. You actually married the government, and now it's like a trust. And the government has right to all proceeds from that union. It's a business now because the government is a corporation. I back in the day when people used to get married, how you just went in the backyard, you had your family, you said your vows with the preacher, you jumped over the broom, then you went back in the house and wrote it in the back of that big Bible that your grandma kept on the table, and you was married. There wasn't no license. Why would you have to pay somebody to get married?
And I guess that's why they say in the power invested in me by the state of yada yada yada, right?
Right, instead of invested in you by God.
Yeah, and when you get divorced, you go back to the state. You don't go back to God.
Right, because they want their cut. Like the business is dissolving, we gotta get our bread too.
Yeah,
right.
All right. I didn't mean to cut your wisdom. Go for it.
No, you good. So just like I said, is the District of Columbia is actually is foreign. It's not part of America, and we know this because you just seen on the news over the last couple of years where they're actually fighting in court to become one of the states. And I wonder, like, why come nobody's paying attention to this? Like, if they weren't already a state, then what are they? And nobody's asking that question. I don't know why nobody's concerned about that. But yeah, it's actually foreign. So then we had, let me see, the Congressional Record. I think I got it right here. Let's go. Right. Now, we want to be mad at our government, but our government, they got overthrown. So if you look at this right here, this is the Congressional Record. It's volume 113, part 12. And if you read it down right here, it says the 14th Amendment, equal protection, law or tool of usurpation. Mr. Pryor, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Rare, may extend his remarks at this point in the record and include extraneous matter. The Speaker, well, this is who's talking, pro tempore. Is there objection to the request of the gentleman from Arkansas? There was no objection. Mr. Speaker, arrogantly ignoring clear-cut expressions in the Constitution of the United States. the declared intent of its drafters, notwithstanding our unelected federal judges, breed out prohibitions of the Constitution of the United States by adopting the fuzzy haze of the 14th Amendment to legislate their personal ideas, prejudices, theories, guilt complexes, sins, and whims. Through the cooperation of intellectual educators, we have subjected ourselves to accept destructive use and meaning of words and phrases. We blindly accept new meanings and change values to alter our traditional thoughts. We have tolerantly permitted the habitual misuse of words to serve as a vehicle to abandon our foundations and goals. Thus, the present use and the expansions of the 14th Amendment is a sham, serving as a crutch and hoodwink to participate a quasi-legal approach to overthrow of the tender balances and protections of limitations found in the Constitution. Now, this is Congress saying this, so they even knew. But I'm assuming that there was people on the inside that was on the other team, and the handful that was trying to fight, I guess they couldn't stop them. But this is actually Congress. They knew what was happening. They couldn't stop it.
So you had mentioned something earlier about 1933, and a lot of things I've read, it talked about this corporation going bankrupt in 1933. Yes. Can you elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was actually the second time. So, but this is when the bankers, they pounced on them. What happened was we went in debt, and the World Bank was trying to foreclose on the country. So the bankers came in and they was like, hey, you don't really have to foreclose. Like, we got some collateral. So the government was like, we don't have any money. That's why we're bankrupt. They said, no. They said, you have the people. And they were like, what do you mean? The bankers like, listen, you got these people and they work. Like, we're just going to put all their labor up. We're going to put their money up. So what they did was they went back to the World Bank and they pledged all of our labor, our future labor, to the World Bank as collateral and the lien for the debt. So when they're talking about the national debt, that's literally what they're talking about. They pledged our labor to go toward that bill that they owed to the World Bank.
Mm-hmm. So is that where the birth certificates come into play?
That's exactly when they came. Birth certificate, Social Security. If you look up a Social Security, what it is, a Social Security number is basically a EIN for a person. It's for to track your labor and wages, so they can extract the taxes out of you. As a matter of fact, if you look up a U.S. citizen, it literally says taxpayer. That's what the definition is. Yeah.
Yeah, and and you hear people, in TikTok, you get the little sound bites. So
right,
it's enough to be dangerous. It doesn't give people enough, but you'll see where people will mention that you could actually look on your Social Security card or your birth certificate, and there's a number on there, and you could actually go and look, say, like on whatever financial
fidelity.com.
That's the main one, right? So it's like, right, look on Fidelity or whatever and put in there, and you'll see that there's a dollar value that when you get your birth certificate, they put a dollar value on each person. And I think it ranges anywhere from 600,000 all the way up to, say, like $1 million. So now, is that?
I think it's actually higher.
Now,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Like when they first created, like, say, a newborn baby, parents get them birth certificate at some point, like in the beginning, but over a period of time, it accumulates based upon like, and there's like a number or something that's created each time you get married, you go to college.
Right.
Even if you get locked up, there's another account created that's tied to it.
Yes.
And there's some type of trust, and we're considered incompetent in law, and somebody else is acting as the trustee over our estate, and they control that.
Right. That is correct.
Can you touch on that? And is this tied into what you're talking about?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, you got a social security number, like you get a mayor's license that has a number on it. That your mayor's license is actually a warehouse receipt. It's a receipt of some property that now belongs to the government. If you get a charge with the police, you get what they call an SSID number. Like you said, that's another account. And yeah, it definitely starts. As a matter of fact, if you just look at your birth certificate, it's literally printed on bond paper. I don't know if anybody pays attention. It's on bond
Exactly.
paper, right? And it has the registration number on it. So if you look that up, like you said, in Fidelity or any kind of, you can look up the CUSA numbers and you could get in there. But I look myself. What you'll see is sometimes we're all in together. You might see like a mutual fund with a whole bunch of us in it for like crazy millions and millions. Like it's ridiculous. But the money, and I just to even use the term, because 90% or more of money is actually just numbers in the computer. Like they're just switching stuff back and forth.
Yeah, it's all digital.
Right. So yeah, it's sitting in there. It's literally it belongs to us, but they divvy it back, and then we're happy. Oh, they gave us a stimulus check. Oh, we get the welfare. Oh, it was your money in the first place. They didn't stole it from you, and they stole $100 off you, and they only gave you 50 cents back, and y'all don't even know what they just did to you.
Right. That's like when you go buy a house or a car. It's not like, okay, you go buy a car for 30,000. It's not like they give you $30,000 and then you go
Right.
buy the car. They go, okay, yeah,
Right.
we got it, and they're holding the title, the whole nine. Like
Correct. Right.
it's a bunch of wordplay, paper pushing, and digital pimping, basically.
Pretty much. And I wasn't even going there today, but just take a house mortgage, for example. They approve you for just say 100,000. They sit you down at the table like, we're gonna get you this house. They slide over the amortization sheet. They slide over the promissory note. You sign a promissory note. They never gave you money. They say, here go your house. Oh, and by the way, you owe us 100,000 plus interest. See, you got to go look up legal tender. Legal tender. You don't understand that when you signed that promissory note, that now became a security that was in your name. And what the bank does is, after you leave, they take it in the back room and they put what they call a special endorsement on it, and they send it up to the treasury and they cash it in. They keep your money, and then they tell you that you owe them another 100,000 with some interest on it. So they double dipping on you, and your house was paid for when you walked out of the bank. You just didn't know it. That's how they do it.
Very interesting, eye-opening indeed, my man.
Yes, sir. So I just real quick, let me see if I can get this definition up here, because you see how the Congress said that they usurp the government. So let's see if we can find let's see.
Yeah, and while you're searching for that, I just want to touch on something. So you mentioned about the US being a corporation, and some people, to them it sounds crazy, right? That United States
Yes.
corporation, but look it up, Google, look it up. And
Oh
then
yeah.
when you study the history of the country, and like even now, it's election time, and every year there's an election, so-called Black people, African American, and we'll talk about why the name,
Right.
why the nationality keeps changing, right? Or it's not even
Right.
nationality, it's a description, right? But
Yep.
prior to the United States corporation, like even at the beginning of the slave trade, you had the Virginia Company of London, under King,
Yes.
like when the 13 colonies were being established. I did a podcast where I touched on that. And you had the Dutch East Indian Company, you had the Royal
Yes.
African Company that was started by King Charles. So you had these corporations that the British government controlled, even Rome,
Yes.
they controlled these corporations where they were sending people into the 13 colonies as indentured
Yes.
servants / slaves to, pick tobacco, search for gold,
Hmm.
cotton, etc. And the proceeds were going back to Great Britain. And you still
Yes.
see a lot of that playing out today, right? With the islands and so
Right.
forth.
Right.
And if we were to really follow where our tax money goes today, we'd probably be surprised, especially income.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, you could go and look anywhere you want. There's nothing in the law that has anything about somebody supposedly paying taxes. You're paying that under the claim you're claiming that you're a U.S. citizen, because we don't understand. Actually, by law, there's actually no such thing as a U.S. citizen, honestly, because how could you be a resident of a corporation? And on top of that, if you don't live in Washington, D.C., it's the United States is only in Washington, D.C. So how could you be a citizen of it?
Think about it. Like it
Right.
almost be like, okay, we found an island somewhere and we want to go build houses, clear the forest, build businesses. And we create a corporation to do so, and we hire servants or employees. It was no
Yes.
different. And that's how the founding of, the 13 colonies,
Yes.
slave trade, all of it, if we look deeper into it, it was business. And if we
Correct.
really look at who was doing business and how they did business, and I'm gonna let you go on in a second, but I've been reading this book. I think this kind of triggered our conversation from my standpoint.
Right.
And they talked about how, there's biblical principles that are actually being used, but it's more wordplay because some of these people are kind of demonic, but it's kind of
Right.
wordplay. Like you mentioned bondage, right? And you
Hmm.
look in scripture, it talks about people going in bondage in the ships, like in the ships
Right.
or citizenships. So it's really
Right.
allegorically playing out, right?
Hmm.
And the people who own land were referred to as what? Lords. So,
Yes.
so a lot of times when you're reading scripture, and it sounds crazy, people, but it's actually the wordplay on what was going on here in the 13 colonies. And once again,
Right. Right.
King James is the one who started the 13 colonies in Virginia. Like
Hmm.
1608 was the first charter, and then 1611, here comes the King James Version of the Bible.
Yes. Yes. And people don't understand, like, the Bible, to me, it's actually a manual. Like, if you pay attention, there's a lot of banking information in the Bible. See, what they're really talking about is they're talking about public and private. See, that's the whole thing with Jesus. Why is the Pharisees asking him about taxes? You know what I mean? Why are they mad at him? Because he's yelling at them, y'all keeping my people in bondage. He goes in the temple, he flips over the tables. People don't do the extra research. What those tables were, they were exchange tables. So they were literally bank teller windows. See, people don't know that the church is a bank. When they say, "Oh,
Money
you messing up,"
changers.
right? You messing with the church money, like that's a real thing. You know what I mean? So they run over to Barabbas and them. They got the police. Oh, he did something. They trump up some charges, bring him over here to Barabbas and them. They're the court, and they're like, "Oh, kangaroo court, string him up." I mean, literally, there was some type of assassination, lynching. They're literally telling you this, and I don't know why people's not getting in their mind. Like, you just read it, and you still don't understand what they're trying to tell you. You know what I mean?
Because in the Bible, it actually says he was hung from a tree. It never said nothing about being hung on a cross. So
Thank you, thank you.
that's going to be a podcast for a different day.
Right. All right. And I'm gonna share again real quick. I'm gonna show y'all what I was about to put up there. Let me see here. All right. So this is the code. You see that location of debtor. Now you scroll down to H. Now you see right there, location of United States. The United States is located in the District of Columbia. They don't hide nothing. We just don't want to read anything.
Exactly.
But it's right there in your face.
So it's really only the square mileage of the District of Columbia. It's not the entire
Correct.
America.
No, and what they did was it's like it's an overlay. You got the map of the land, and they basically took their corporate map and they laid it over top of it. Like anybody that owns property, you notice how when you pay your taxes, you're not paying for land. You're paying a lot tax. You're paying, it got a parcel number. That's all legal terms. That stuff is fictitious. Like if I own this land, why would I be paying you taxes? And then if I don't pay them, you're gonna come take my property. Right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
right, people don't think about things like that. Now, when you're going the route I'm going to sever the ties and you get back to the land, now you can own property and you can make it allodial, which means it'll stay in your family generation after generation. See, that's what old money is. Every generation throws in the pot and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger because they shield it away from the government being able to touch it. They got trust, different charities, businesses. Like the government gonna take taxes your whole life, and then he gonna take them even after you dead. Whatever you got left, he gonna get some of that too. Like they ain't playing with you.
So real quick, so were they able to usurp the trust that, say, our ancestors had on the land prior to the Civil War? Like, say, for example, like I studied a lot of what was going on in Virginia, like prior
Right,
even to the American Revolution. Like
right.
you had a lot of people owned a lot of land, right? So the king, even like King George III, let's say that, because that was
Mhm.
during the time of American Revolution. So
Right,
under King George, we were sovereign kings and queens, and we were heirs entitled to the land. How were they able to usurp that, or are they squatting on the land of these royal bloodlines?
see, that's where they tell you the story. They tell it backwards. It wasn't that they came and made farms and plantations and then took us slaves and put us on there and worked us. We already owned all that stuff when they came here. We
Yes.
were the first farmers of this land, and they were actually squatting on our land. We accommodated them though, because we're them kind of people. Hey, you good? Just get over there, don't tear up nothing, and get you a little bit of them crops, and you be all right. So what happened was, now they created money. That's what really happened. See, we was on the barter system. We took care of each other. Now they created money. They put the farmers and everybody in debt, and then they took the land from them and gave it to the people that was actually squatting on their land. Now they're out in the field, and these people sitting up there in their house.
Yeah,
That's good.
on top of that, and then the creation of the Klan and chasing them off the land. Because if you look at the Great Migration of the
Right.
so-called, and I hate to say African American because that term came into existence in
It's right.
1880,
Right.
and they kept changing our name. And that ties into what we're talking about. But if
Right.
if you look, 90% of so-called Negro people were in the South, in the southeastern states, and we own millions of acres of land, and
Right.
we were the farmers. Like, I'm deep off into genealogy, and I've helped a lot of people
Mhm.
do their genealogy, and I keep seeing the same story over and over. They were
Right.
farmers, owned all these acres of land, and then with this mass migration of European immigrants between 1880 and 1930,
Right.
they went to war on our people and forced them off the land. And the ones who stayed end up sharecropping. Then,
Right.
under Andrew Jackson, you had the Indian Removal Act, which people think
Mhm.
is the Native American people, but these American
Right.
Indians look just like you and me. And the records are there because they were, say, for example, they were pushing them into Indian territory west of the
Right.
Mississippi, and Oklahoma was one of those territories. We'll use that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at Oklahoma, Oklahoma was full of all these black towns
Right.
prior to them pushing them there. And then once they pushed them there, it was even more, right? And they're thinking this is
Mm-hmm.
just barren land. And then all of a sudden in Tulsa, they find all this oil and
Right.
same things that our people were doing, building these cities like Rosewood, Wilmington, New Orleans, Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
They went there and built up what we know as Black Wall Street in Tulsa, right?
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, where are these Native American towns in Tulsa or in Oklahoma? You don't see them. You see
Right.
our people. So we were the ones being pushed off the land. We were the ones being
Mm-hmm.
pushed up north. And then now you get into labor disputes because now we're pushed off
Right.
where we're not self-sufficient. Now we need to work for somebody in these corporations,
Mm-hmm.
in these different like, say Ford or wherever in these
Right.
industries, right?
Right.
And
That's right.
then now we start getting into the riot situations up north because
Mm-hmm.
we're fighting over labor, right?
Right.
And this is how America just turned into this big old powder keg. And you don't get taught this stuff in school. So, I
Not at
really
all.
feel for people who they say 60, 70% of the people after they graduate from high school, you never read another book. I feel sorry for those
Mm-hmm.
people because you're going to have to go out and re-educate yourself to find out
Right.
what really happened, to find out who you are and what happened.
Right. Right. And you hit the nail on the head because this everything I'm talking about. Remember, you always hear people honor your ancestors. I don't think people really knows what that means. You just said it. I mean, to honor our ancestors, we got to understand history, understand what happened to them, understand what they went through, understand what was taken from them, which ultimately was taken from us. We see it all the time, like the family that their people own that property up there in New York, that waterfront property. I'm thankful that they fought them people where they got that property back. But how many of us owns property? Acres and acres.
Oh, Bruce Beach in California. The
Yeah,
Bruce
yeah.
got that beach back in California. And you see it happening time and time again. And that's why right now
Mm-hmm.
it's so important for people to dig into their genealogy. Matter of fact, I'm gonna start
Right.
genealogy classes on
Mm-hmm.
weekends to help people start digging into these files, find out your history. And that they told us we all came from Africa. And when you start studying, you find out that the majority of us were always here. And it was
My grandma, I'm sorry, I may cut you off.
no,
My
no, no,
grandma
go
told me
for it.
from she told me from day one that she was native. She ain't say nothing about from no Africa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
They'll
And
tell you.
it's a mind thing. I was talking to a melanated woman at this. I don't even know how we got on the subject, but she was. We was talking about the whole color and race thing. So I remember her saying prior to that about. I think she was saying her grandmother, her great grandmother was Cherokee. So I tell her, I said, well, see, that's where the problem's coming in at. She said, what you talking about? I said, listen, if your grandma was Cherokee, how did you turn from an indigenous all the way into a black person? Like I don't
Million
understand that.
dollar question.
Right.
That's the $1 million question.
Mm-hmm.
And see, the school system's never going to teach you that, right?
Mm-mm.
And Carter G. Woodson, who was Ivy League grad, descendant of former slaves, and even with his great education, he said that he didn't have a knowledge of himself, and he said that
Right.
in life you get two educations. You get the one that's given to you, and then
Mm-hmm.
you get the one that you give to yourself, the latter being the
Right.
most important, meaning
Right.
that you have to
Mm-hmm.
go out there to dig to find out who you are, spiritually, physically. Hell, the Bible starts off with Genesis, which is genealogy. It's
Right.
talking about who begat who begat,
Race is right.
yeah, so the family. And I'm telling you, even if you start really looking at your genealogy and you
Mm-hmm.
start seeing it goes into these royal bloodlines that goes back into these biblical times, that you
Right.
are the people of that book.
Right. Well, that's why they keep migrating us. And it's not always a physical migration. They keep migrating our mind. People don't see how they, who else had their name changed about 6, 7 times?
Nobody.
Nobody.
It was paper genocide, actually, because even if you look, like during the Indian Removal Act, when they were removing them, say, out of Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, everything. So the ones that went to the reservations, the government pretty much put them in a welfare program, put them on poor,
Right.
gave them bad food, alcohol, and all that, so they could self-destruct. But the ones that wanted to stay on the land, they were forbidden to claim that they were indigenous to the land. I'm talking about
Right.
it came with a year in prison, lynch,
Yeah.
killing.
Yeah.
Because if you
You
look,
couldn't speak the language, you couldn't wear
yeah,
your tribal gear, you couldn't do anything.
yeah, and if you look, that's when all the lynching and murder and everything took place. Is it really post Reconstruction, because Civil War ends 1865, Klan
Right.
Night Riders are created, and you start looking in the South during Reconstruction. Black people, so-called Black people, right? The American Indian, indigenous people, they took over the political structure in the South. Like, if you look,
Right.
you can Google right now, Louisiana senators or House of Representatives during Reconstruction. It's
Right.
like all the positions were filled by Black people.
Right.
And they controlled the politics. It was the same thing that was going on in Wilmington, North Carolina, Mississippi. We controlled the politics, and we were Republicans because it was still a republic. And the thing is, we had morals, we were family oriented, we were married
Right.
at a higher rate more than anybody on the land. And we had big families because, for different reasons. It's like, because your land was your corporation. And
Right.
when you start looking at the Civil War, most people don't notice is that, we were fighting on both sides of the war. I have family members from the South who fought on the Confederate side, and I have some who fought on
Right.
the Union side. But the ones in the South, they were really just fighting to protect their interests in the land, because it's like a lot of times it was their family on there, right? Because
Right.
about, oh yeah, Black people own slaves. Yeah, they had their family members on there. Because
Right.
you could look in some of the genealogy records, and it would show you could even tell by the ages. It'd be like a man, then there's a female, like a few years different than him, and then some 3
Right.
or 5-year-old kids. It's like, no, they didn't have them on there. It's like that was his family. So,
Right.
but anyway, man, I'm
Right.
on when to go for it,
But
brother.
yeah. No, all right. I was about to let me see here. We was talking about that usurpation. I wanted to see if I can get over to this definition right quick. Let me see. All right. Is my screen sharing?
Not yet.
Okay, hold on. All right, here we go. All right, there we go. All right, usurpation. This is Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Now it says usurpation, the unlawful assumption of the use of property which belongs to another, an interruption or the disturbing a man in his right and possessions. The unlawful seizure or assumption of sovereign power, the assumption of government or supreme power by force or illegally in derogation of the Constitution and of the rights of the lawful ruler. Now, you saw when I read what the Congress said. They said that they usurped it. Now, we see the definition of that, and that's exactly what happened.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so this thing it goes deep. And now let me put this out there. Of course, we're going to speak on behalf of our folks. But this message goes out to everybody, because you saw what we're looking at. They didn't only just now they try to keep us in the low end of the totem pole, but they did this to everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we need to wake up and we need to understand this. And for my melanated people, when I showed you all them nationalities, you ain't see nothing that said Black on there. we got to get like, that's part of why we're dealing with what we're dealing with, because there's no such thing as a Black person. It's not a nationality. It's not, and I know how, well, we just know, stop that, because that's why they're doing stuff to us. If it's not a nationality, but you got that on your driver's license, you filling out job applications, you doing all this stuff, and you're not understanding that that's old, what they call slave code. If you was a slave, you were what they call blacklisted. It didn't have nothing to do with what race, or kind of people you are. And see, that's mind games. They're playing with us with the words, and because we don't understand that, we're just dealing with it, and we don't even know what we're dealing with. So we gonna have to get a handle on that.
Hey, while you're on that, you mentioned Black's Law Dictionary. I don't think everybody out there really understands the importance of a Black's Law Dictionary. So
Right.
he's looking into Black's Law Dictionary. Tell them the importance of Black's Law Dictionary. And can you also, after you do that, show us the definition of Black in the Black's Law Dictionary?
Okay. All right. Well, let me see. Here's what it is. It's all with the words. So like when you was in elementary school, when you went to the class where they taught you how to write, they called that spelling class. Now this ain't no woo-woo kind of thing, but it is casting a spell, because it's having you believe and having you think in a certain way. It's subliminal messaging, and it's coding, it's indoctrination. Every time you're dealing with anything that's corporate, you don't have a clue what's going on. You go in the courtroom, you try to deal with a corporation, they speak what they call legalese. It's literally a whole foreign language. So what you think you might be saying, you don't have a clue.
Totally different.
Right. I'll give you a perfect example. Let's see here. All right. We'll go back into the code right quick. Let's see. Am I still sharing or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yep. Let's go in the code. All right. All right. Let's see here. All right. We're going to go in the code. All right. We're going to look up person. Y'all trying not to let me see it. Let's go. All right, we'll find it. But what was the other question that you were asking me about?
Is what Black actually means in a court of law. So when you're going in there claiming Black, like for example, if a person is Polish, Italian,
Right.
if they're Israeli or whatever, there's a landmass that they're associated with. There is no Black land. So when we're running around saying we're Black, what land is
Right.
it? So it's not tied to a land.
The only definition, as far as I know from back then, that was ever given about our people was a description of the copper colored people who inhabited the land before any Europeans came over here.
Right. And that's under the 1828 Noah Webster Dictionary definition
Right.
of American.
Right. Exactly.
That it was the copper colored people, but now it pertains to those who come from Europe more so than it does us, because it got flip-flop. So
right.
Really, and that's what it goes back to Martin Luther King when he woke up toward the end of his life and realized he was being used. And
they got it.
Stated that the Negro was in exile in his own land.
Right. He figured it out. So you see right here, I found it. The term person shall be construed to mean and include an individual, a trust, an estate, a partnership, an association, a company, or a corporation. So you thought a person was you. Like I'm trying to tell y'all, this is how they get us. You think you're saying something, or you think they're saying something. You don't have a clue what these people talking about. That's why you need a Black's Law Dictionary, because everything that we're dealing with is all commerce. You go to grocery store, commerce. You catch a charge, it's commerce. You buy the house, commerce. You deal with the bank, it's all commerce. It's all admiralty law, and we need to be aware that if you don't know this, this is how they're getting over. Like I said, what they do at the bank when you go buy a house. If you go into and read the UCC, they explain to you what a special endorsement is, and they tell you exactly how they're taking the money. Now, if we would go in there and know that, they wouldn't be able to do it. That money will be coming to us. Literally, nobody's broke. We just don't know how to get our hands on the funds. But that's why I'm trying to like move people in that direction.
There you go. And not only that is to reclaim some of your ancestors' land, because there's some of you sitting out there whose ancestors' land was taken. People could be on there drilling for oil,
Right.
Copper, just
Right.
Where they were, gold in some cases. So
Right.
that's why you see a lot of these people going back, reclaiming the land. There's land patents that are sitting out there that, can be enacted, even though
Right.
corporations on the land, now you can go back, file a suit against them, charge them rent, if they want to stay
Right.
land, charge them rent, get
Right.
a percentage of the business.
And we need to know it because the land that we already have, we're supposed to know how to do a land patent and make our properties so they can't do anything to it, because we got the power to do whatever we want to do. We just don't have the knowledge to get going about handling that business.
Right. Yeah, and you'll see a lot of cases, they'll tell you, oh, your ancestors were uneducated and all that. That's not always the case.
We already know that we came with the ancient Kemet knowledge. We already know that.
Yeah, that was more of, there's a lot of deterrents that are in the path to keep you from even researching stuff in the first place. So that's why I say a lot of times, your ancestors are talking to you in your dreams, everything else, telling you to wake that butt up and start looking.
Exactly.
They left a lot of breadcrumbs and clues out there. And once again, 99% of your ancestors came from the Southeast, one of these Southeastern states, and they owned a farm and something happened.
Right. That's right. Trying to get that definition for you in the Black's Law. But yeah, you're on point, and that's the thing. Like they'd have lulled us to sleep. We just think, okay, that's the way it is. We got to get out of that. We got to get back to the land. We're supposed to be owning some acres. You know what's going on with the food. With the pesticides and toxins and all that, making everybody sick. Not to mention if you could even afford to go to the grocery store to get something to eat. But we didn't come from that. I remember growing up, and my grandparents kept a garden. We ate out of that garden every day.
Yeah, and you know what else is wild that I'm starting to see, because we heard these stories that, hey, these slaves didn't live long. Average life expectancy was like 25 because they worked so
What?
You hear all that? Yeah, but when I'm researching, and I'm telling you, I've done at a minimum 100 different genealogies for people, right? And all I see is a whole bunch of people living 80, 90, 100, 110. Like I even seen a case where the husband was 109, the wife was 94, and they were still farming. Still farming.
That's right.
And you've seen that, and the average size of the families were about 10 people. Now, what they did do when they flipped it is because when you had a lot of these European immigrants that were coming, right? And without that'd have to be a podcast for another day, but a lot of them were getting shipped, say, to Jamaica and Barbados, and the heat was just too much for them to there and pick cotton and sugar cane, things of that nature. And they were not living that long, and they were not having children. It did not pertain. We were always having these big families up until now. Now we ain't got too sexy to have families and chasing the bag, and the average family is like 0.7 or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm used to that. I got to have 4 sisters and 2 brothers. So, people like, man, that's a big old man. Look, that's what we came from.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you go back further, the families were even bigger. And some of those men had multiple wives, and I've seen some with 25 kids, like with two, three different women. And like,
Right,
or like, for example, my Bruce ancestors that were in Virginia in the 1700s, hell, they had 10 kids
right, right. That's right,
in the mid 1700s.
right. All right. Now I still was looking for black, but actually found let me see here. I found the black code. I'm gonna read this to everybody right quick because we definitely was talking about that.
Yes, sir.
Let's see here.
Yeah, and they actually in Haiti in French they called it Code Noir. And
Right,
that's when they were getting those black Hebrews up out of Haiti with these black codes.
right. Now
So
here, right here, it's a black code, a name given collectively to the body of laws, statutes, and rules enforced in various southern states prior to 1865, which regulated the institution of slavery and particularly those forbidding their reception at public inns and on public conveyances, which would be like, public transportation, city bus, whatever, civil rights cases. But yeah, see that. So the term black, that's what they're talking about. I mean, we got to understand that, and it just makes me angry. Like we're Black Lives Matter, and I'm like, no, they don't. Sit down somewhere. Like you don't know what you talk about. You
and
run out the street.
well, you have to see where the slogan itself makes sense, but the
Right,
money in the plotting and planning of of the whole thing is evil.
right.
You know,
Because
you
we got to stop getting set up. Like that was
yeah,
Soros and that was behind that. And see,
yeah, yeah.
we got to understand that they'll throw stuff out there and we just running after it, and they're back there laughing like, I got you. We got to have our own thing, and we got to do it ourselves. We can't be jumping on no bandwagons or running behind some social media. You know what? Like we have to really have a meeting of the minds and come together as a community. And like that's the only way we want to get something done, because the stuff that's going on now, a lot of it's going to get worse, and a lot of people, if they don't wake up real soon, they're going to find out like it's going to be bad out here.
Yeah, and you just said a mouthful because a lot of it was paper genocide, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they did it on paper by changing your title, like who you were, right? We went from
Right,
the indigenous people of the land, like initially when Columbus and De Soto and them came to the Americas,
right,
they referred to us as Los Indios, meaning the people of God, right?
mm-hmm.
And there's another part of that thing. I think I'm saying it wrong, but anyway, they were
Right,
to them as people of God, like meaning their original people, because they were seeing them as they traveled, around the world, right?
mm-hmm. Right,
And we went from that to Negro, because the Spanish and the Portuguese are the ones that were kicking off the real slave trade back in the
right,
late 1492 when the Moorish
mm-hmm.
Empire fell. Isabel and Ferdinand sent Columbus and them
Right,
out. So they referred to as dark-skinned people as Negro. That's where the Negro came from. And
mm-hmm.
then they start grouping us in this colored. So they took anybody of people of color, because you'll see on some
Right,
genealogy records, it'll say free people of color, right?
mm-hmm.
It went to mulatto, so
Right,
like indigenous American mixed with some indigenous Scottish blood, which the majority of
mm-hmm.
our people are. Um,
Right,
so you had all these different titles, and then it gets to black, and with Jesse Jackson and them in the mid 1980s, come up with this African American thing, right? So if we
right,
were from Africa originally, why didn't they just call us Africans? It would have made it real easy, right?
right. And why come we didn't already know that?
Exactly. Yeah,
It ain't like
exactly.
we didn't have grandparents and great
Yeah,
grandparents. They didn't
yeah.
say nothing about that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and stories got passed down, and like I
Mm-hmm.
encourage people to go talk to your big mama and your aunties and your
Mm-hmm.
uncles, because they're
Right,
holding a wealth of information, and some of them, you know, they lived through a lot of trauma and so forth,
right,
Like
My
prior
grandmother didn't
to,
want to talk about it.
yeah, they don't
She,
want to talk about it.
she told us she was native. She even showed us a picture of her people, and I'm not sure who he was in the picture, but he had the whole headdress that they. But if you try to ask her any questions, like she ain't want to talk about it.
Yeah, and it's like I'm talking about it's common sense, right? You look at our people even in New Orleans, the islands, like
Right,
celebrating Mardi Gras and Carnival, they put on indigenous garb. That didn't
mm-hmm.
come from Europe. It didn't come from
Right,
that's us. And if you really, in your heart of hearts, the person's honest, damn near everything about American culture came from our people.
right,
Sports and entertainment on lock. We pretty much
mm-hmm.
created all the music. We are the athleticism. We're that. You look at the inventions. Like if we weren't allowed to read and write, why was it in the early 1800s? And I'm talking even beyond that. Why were we
Right,
creating all the things that really pushed the culture forward? We were the brick masons. We
right,
were the ones that built. I dare people to go Google uh, not only the White House, the state capitol buildings around the country, you know,
right,
built those. Our people built all of that stuff. So,
mm-hmm.
and it's like our language, like, that we talked about Noah Webster, the 1820
Right,
dictionary. Like he talked about how he took like 23 different indigenous languages to compile to create, the language that we're
right,
speaking to this day. And it was more of a
mm-hmm.
trade language, right? So
Right. Well,
even
that's
if,
what English actually is.
yeah, it's a trade
They
language.
right. They were traveling around, so they said we need some common ground so everybody could do business with each other. That's where English came from. Excuse me.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if you said shoes a different way and said cotton a different way, it's like everywhere they went. And even to this day, it's like our slang, each year they're adding new words to the dictionary based upon our slang. Think about
You know
it.
how we do. Yeah.
Our dance, everything, like what
Mm-hmm.
we do naturally has been studied. Even if you go back into the ancient world, our spiritual systems have been
Right.
turned into religions because it's like
Right.
more natural.
That's why we got to come back. We got to go back to the land. We got to come back to ourselves. Like people, this thing that we're looking for, this thing we think we're missing, it's inside of us. It's been there the whole time. Everybody's looking over here, looking over there. We gonna run down to church. We're gonna talk to this guy. Listen, sit down, be still, and get quiet. The knowledge is in our DNA. Listen to yourself. Listen to your gut, and that's what that's why I'm out here because I'm trying to teach people. Because I do the working out and all that. Because I try to stay fit. Because you got to stay fit to keep your mind right. But we can go back, and people don't. And I mean by the law, like they can't even stop you. Like people like you're crazy. No, I'm not. I'm the one thing that they can't go against is their own words. So that's why I study. I study law, study trust law, banking, all this kind of thing, and I've dealt with the court system and pretty much handled my business. I've dealt with the police, handled my business. You know what I mean? Like people, like we was just talking about the passports. Like the way we're filling out these passports, we're actually ambassadors and diplomats. Where they're told by the State Department, you got to let him go ahead. You know what I mean? Now, that don't mean we out here running crazy because what we teach people is to always remain in honor, don't cause any controversy. We live by the universal laws of the land. Don't hurt nobody, don't steal nobody's property. Like you know how to act, right? Just do what you're supposed to do, and everybody's good. Like we're not out here promoting violence and tearing up everybody, and because that they try to spin it on us like that. They use that term. Oh, them people's some kind of sovereign citizen. First of all, the word don't even make no sense because if we're saying that we're sovereign, you're literally claiming that you're not a citizen. So why would you turn around and call yourself a sovereign? That's just dumb, you know. So yeah, and showing people how to. We got to start learning how to deal with this monetary situation. This paper that they giving us is that's going out. It's going out of style. We got to learn how to use securities. We got to learn how to use promissory notes, letters of credit. I try to explain to people the most powerful thing that you have on this planet is your signature. Because when you put your name, your family name to something, that's how they getting all the money. You just don't know that it was your money in the first place. You can sign that, you can sign stuff, and you can take money too, the same way they're doing it. You know what I mean? All they doing is signing IOUs, promissory, but they can't think about it. Everything you do, they require your signature. Why do they need it so bad? Because we're the only ones in here in this country that can literally create money from nothing. They know that. We just don't know that. That's why they make you sign everything.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because I kept struck. I'm like, why are they trying to take in cursive writing out of the school system? You see what I'm saying? So
Because a corporation can't write in cursive.
Bingo.
They're trying to hold you into that citizenship. We're starting to wake up and move out of there. They're trying to like move us back in. Like, no, bro, we out this time. We ain't coming back.
Yeah. Dude, it's like, man, yeah, we're definitely gonna have to do part 2, 3, whatever we have to do on this.
Right.
There's so many different compartments to this thing, right? And like I always,
Yes.
you can't eat an elephant in one bite. You got to break it up.
Right.
And
Right.
you know, and it was paper genocide basically. So it's like, to reverse it, it's gonna take paper. You know, it's
Right.
gonna take
Right.
people thinking. You know, first of all, it's gonna read, communicate, and dig up some of these records. And then it's not so much like they say in the court of law, it's like, what can you prove? And it's
Right.
like, that's why we have to dig into these records, dig into this
Right.
information, and be able to stand in the court of law and get your land back, you know, and get your freedom.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
the same thing, that's what they're in the Matrix when they talk about, you know, give you the red or the blue pill. And he says,
Yep.
when you look out the window, he says, nobody can tell you what it is. You're gonna have to figure it out.
Right.
So, but
Right.
he said, when you pay your taxes, when you go to church, you know, when you look out the window, like, you're born into bondage, and that bondage is what we're talking about here today.
That's right. That's right. Now look, we go because I know we about to wind up, but we gonna end it on this right here. Watch this. Because see, you just brought up the Matrix. I'm gonna show y'all something. All right. Watch this. Now this, remember they told him to follow the white rabbit,
Yes, sir.
and he followed that lady to the club.
Yes, sir.
That's her right there. You see what her name is? You see that right there?
Make me put my glasses back on.
Look what her name is.
Where's your cursor at?
Right here.
Jury.
De
De
jure.
jure.
Yeah. That's literally her name. So, all right, people might be like, "What is he talking about?" Let me find this dictionary again. All right, now watch. I'm gonna find it. Her name literally was de jure. So let's go down here. We gonna end it with a bomb. I better not say that; they might come after. I don't have my mouse with the roller on it.
Yeah, and while we're at that, it's like, we're not claiming to be lawyers. We're not claiming, you know,
Right.
this is for entertainment purposes.
Right.
Like I say, chew the meat, spit out the bones. You know, if there's something in here that resonates, hopefully it sparks you to dig deeper, to start researching and looking, to find out if there is any truth into any of the things that we're saying. It's like, I would never want anybody to believe anything I say. It's like, I'd rather you come to me with a stronger argument, and then that way we could build on it, and I can grow.
Right. See, that's why I'm not going too deep, because that's what I want. Like, go look it up. Like you said, don't believe what I'm saying. Go look it up. Get up there and read some stuff. Get in some books. Like, the knowledge is there.
Yeah, and I could tell you this: it's like, what you're looking for is looking for you.
Right.
So if you start searching for it, it says seek and ye shall find. If you're looking,
Right.
you're gonna
What they say, your vibe attracts your tribe.
there you go. Vibe Tribe, that's my thing, man. I actually got a shirt line,
Right.
Vibe Tribe.
Yes, sir. All right. This word is trying to elude me. I'm gonna get it to
De jour. That's a French term.
yes, sir.
De
But
jour.
yeah, this is what we gonna end it on as soon as I find it.
So we're
But
in
yeah,
we're in Black's Law again, right? This is
right.
Black's
This is Black's Law. Yeah, Black's Law.
Which
Now,
volume?
like
They have multiple volumes as well.
this is four. I have five. I actually got a few of them. You want to get different ones. And over the years they start changing stuff or taking something out or putting something in. All right, we're getting close. All right, but yeah, like so on the Matrix, they telling you got to let everything go. Literally, you have to, like, even in the Bible tell you got to die to the flesh. You know what I mean? Neo, he didn't have, he didn't have confidence, and he didn't he was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna just, he was depressed. He was all like that. He like literally in the hallway when they finally got him and they took him out. But then when he woke back up, what happened? He was able to see the Matrix, and they couldn't do nothing with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a deep movie if you really
Yeah.
understand the metaphors and all that good stuff. So a lot of times it's like people just looking too much to be entertained and educated. And that's why I like
Right.
edutainment, right? It's like get the education and get entertained at the same time. So you have a lot of these movies have a lot of information in them if you know some of the basics, right?
Right.
They'll put it right in
Well,
you.
they tell a lot. I know you remember that movie They Live with Roddy Piper.
I think I remember seeing that.
Remember he put the glasses on, then he was seeing all
Yeah,
these different words and
yeah,
different kind of
yeah. On
people.
the building,
Yeah.
yeah. Tell him to kill himself, all kind of other stuff.
Yeah, that's they tell it.
All the businesses had different things on them, like trying to get people to
Mm-hmm.
like shop here type stuff.
Right. Yep. You know what? They It's taking too long for me to find. I might just go on the regular part and get it. Oh no, hold on, I think I'm close.
Got to go back the other way.
Yeah, it's weird because sometimes it'll get into some other stuff. It might be at the top of it.
I wonder
You know
if
what?
it's under just DE because it's two separate words.
Right.
You know what you could do? Hold on one second. Go back. Go
What's
back
that?
go onto the doc. Hit Control F is in Frank. And when the box, you hit Control F.
Yeah.
Click on the doc, hit Control F. Okay, you see up top,
Yeah.
type in de jour there. You might have to put a space. So there's 20
Get it?
different references. So you might have to up arrow or down arrow and find it. This is how when I'm going through PDFs, man, to find stuff quick. That's the little cheat code.
Yeah.
You could hit see the arrow up there where the number are where you typed it into
Which
the box.
okay.
Yeah, just kind of hit that.
Oh, there you go. See the top. There you go, right there. All right, de jour. Of right, legitimate, lawful, by right and just title. In this sense, it is the contrary of de facto. It may also be contrasted with de gratia, in which case it means as a matter of right, as the guardian by grace or favor. Again, it may be contrasted with, I'm not sure how to pronounce that word,
Where you at?
sequitate. Right. Here meaning by law, as the latter means by equity. There you go. By right title. De jure, back to the land. See,
Yeah.
we're de jure in the land, the government is de facto. That when you said the Matrix, that's why I know they were saying something in there, because they literally told him to follow the white rabbit, and that lady's name is de jure.
Yeah, and you know something, I'm trying to remember what's the lady's name that actually wrote The Matrix.
I know you're talking about too.
Yeah, she wrote The Matrix as well as gosh, what was the other one? What was the one with the Predator? Yeah, the
Yeah,
Predator. Yeah, like
and Terminator.
Terminator.
She did, yeah, she did it. She said it's actually the same. They're connected together. I can't remember how she explained it, but she said they're
Exactly.
connected.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and like in one of them, like she even used the initials like JC for one of the characters because she was saying it was symbolic of Jesus Christ. And
Right.
so it was pretty symbolic. She actually had submitted one of those or a couple of them to a film fest and they got hijacked. She ended up suing and got
Yeah.
paid.
Yeah.
I need to look up her name. It's
Yeah.
easy.
She said the one company, she went right into them Hollywood cats and like gave it up, and she said they just took it. Like they was like, thank you. Just took her stuff and kept it. I was like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, all right, my man, I think that we're going to wrap up this episode here.
Right.
Is anything you want to close out with?
Uh well, like I said at the beginning, man, it's a pleasure. I've been watching you, man. You're doing big things. I love your podcast. I'm honored to be here, and definitely whenever you want me back, I will be back. To everybody that's going to be watching, like I said, get in the books. You got to read. You got to understand what's happening. Uh, Now, I just touched the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole lot of, but you got to be ready. Like I will say that much. If you ain't about it, don't even stay on the couch, because we doing big dog stuff out here.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it's
But
not for the weak at heart, and it's not like some money grab or anything like that. This is
right,
like serious business.
it's nothing about money. This is more of a spiritual thing. You know what I mean? And they understand that too, because literally what's happening is they're capturing our soul by getting hold of the vessel, which is the body part. That's like we talked earlier about all this stuff that happened when the 14th Amendment got passed. There wasn't all that big giant prison system and all this and that. Like literally, when you go to jail, you're not in there for a crime. You're locked up in what they call debtor's prison. And you don't understand that. They're saying they launched a charge against you, which is a lien. They're saying you owe something and you're going to pay it one way or the other, whether you pay it with money or pay it with your body, you're going to pay what you owe. But if you know how the system operates, what did I tell y'all about that signature? If you know how to sign stuff right, if you know how to separate yourself from that what we call fictitious entity, because no human person, and I can't even say person because we already know it's not real, no man or woman signs their name in all capital letters. And I'm gonna just leave it at that.
yeah, and that's why you can pull your driver's license out and look at it and ask yourself, why is your name capitalized?
Right. It's all contracts. Like
Exactly.
I said, trust law, we'll save that for another day, but you see where I was going with that.
Yeah, so tell the people out there, where can they find you and engage with you if they have more questions?
Uh I'm on Facebook. You look me up, Michael Cox. I don't have, just regular family page. I do put some stuff up there. I have a channel where I do music reviews. It's called Hot Copies Cafe. You can hit me on there, and I actually have another YouTube channel called Yogi Freeman, but I haven't started posting there yet. But I'm about to put a little classroom together, a series of of this stuff, and I'm gonna put it on there, and I'll be sure to let you know, Bruce, so you can let everybody know, like, come on, get some of that knowledge.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're gonna definitely have to do this again. So once again, everybody, this is Michael Cox, my homie from Newcastle, representing.
Yes, sir.
Two now to 724.
Right, right. I appreciate you, man.
Man, I appreciate you too, man. It's a pleasure. And once again, this is Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. It's Russell Bruce, Michael Cox. Until next time, peace.
Peace out.